Wait, Vaz made a video. I haven't seen this video, actually. This is interesting. Usually people tell me to watch these videos like instantly. Vaz made a video called Why Genshin Impact is Losing Popularity. I'll keep it real. I don't think it is. I could be entirely wrong here. I haven't looked at statistics and numbers. Let's see. I don't know. I'm curious.
Video a couple weeks back
I'm
on
very
the
curious.
problem with Genshin's modern character design, I was expecting there to be a lot of discussion in the comments over how players feel about the direction of its characters. And while unsurprisingly, most of the comments were in agreement with the sentiment that things just don't hit like they used to, I did not anticipate there to be so many.
I do think, if we're keeping everything a buck here, I don't think the recently... I don't think the Natlan characters do hit like the previous Nation characters used to. I feel like we went down a whole different direction for character design and character experience and Nation experience. And I thoroughly enjoyed Natlan's story and lore and presentation as well, to be honest. Although presentation could always be better with Genshin. The characters, I just didn't feel much love towards them like previous Nations. Fontaine characters, I felt such a close connection to. Sumeru, probably the closest. But Natlan, I just didn't get really a grip on many of the characters, you know? I feel like I understood and really liked maybe 2 or 3, and one of them was Kakuku. I do also think the voice actor strike played a big part in that. Yeah, a lot of characters being muted. You didn't really get to understand the character's personality too much because you were the ones voicing them in your head. I agree with that. That definitely did not help, but I don't think that was the only problem with it.
Many people expressing discontentment towards the subject at hand. Over 2,500 comments at the time of writing this in a video with around 110k views is an insane percentage.
Yeah,
but
that is
it is understandable
crazy.
why. Version 5 has been a major turning point for Genshin Impact for better or worse, although at this point we can comfortably surmise that even if there are people who like the new stuff, a substantial number of players feel disillusioned by the state of the game. I even made a video talking about how Natlan would be Hoyo's last chance to maintain Genshin's position as the number
I don't think that's accurate.
one gacha game, and it's just
Number one gacha game is so subjective though, right? Because what is number one gacha games? Does it mean most active player count? Does it mean topping the revenue charts? Because I think Love and Deep Space has been topping the revenue charts for months now. So I don't necessarily think best gacha game is a good metric to go off of, because that's going to be different for everybody.
just painful to see it be true. People have always trashed on this game ever since the day it came out,
True.
but never on this grand a scale. Such a topic is an
Really? Are people actually shitting on Genshin that much nowadays? I'll keep it a buck here. I don't necessarily think the reason we're seeing more people trash Genshin and trash other games is because the games are inherently doing worse and worse and worse. I think it's because there's just more of those types of content creators coming out and seeing success from negativity.
unfamiliar to us by any stretch of the imagination. For years there's been a video every month from one creator or another complaining that Genshin is dying. I've also made one before back in 2023 regarding burnout. Those
True.
points still stand, mind you,
Burnout's a
but
big
this
one.
is a much worse situation. So as a follow-up to my video on Genshin's modern character design, I wanted to make one discussing if Genshin Impact is losing popularity as a whole.
Yeah. My predictions on this going into it is that right now it probably is losing popularity, but it's a yearly cycle that it goes through, because the 0.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 are usually very, very like high interest for a lot of players, and then when the main storyline ends, they wait until the next.
When it first came out in 2020, a major reason for its generational success was that in addition to being released at a time where society at large was mostly confined indoors and looking for something to pass the time, to say that Genshin revolutionized the mobile and gacha industry would be an understatement. Having been a gacha prisoner and a new player since I think 2015, I always saw gacha games as mobile titles meant to just keep you entertained during
Bro, I thought this was Chikorita for a second. Jesus.
brief moments of idling throughout the day. Prevailing wisdom shared the belief that there was a clear divide in quality, production value, and so on between mobile games and console and PC ones. Sure, they were fun. Some of my favorite childhood moments are playing Fruit Ninja, Angry Birds, Bloons Tower Defense, Temple Run, Candy Crush, and whatnot, but they weren't meant to give
Temple Run. Oh my god, I remember playing Temple Run on the bus to school in the morning. Jesus, the
you the
throwbacks.
same complete and comprehensive experiences you'd find on video games meant for your computer, Xbox One, or PS4. The hardware simply wasn't capable enough. Gachas in particular had this bootleg reputation to them, looking like cheap cash grabs. There were some good games out there, but when you took into account mechanics like the stamina system,
I feel like Arknights has such a bad rep, dude. I deadass don't know why. I haven't done any research into it, but I feel like Arknights has such a bad rep.
preventing you from playing endlessly, suffice to say mobile games were
great.
perceived to have noticeably less quality and depth compared to your conventional games. That is, until Genshin Impact.
Yo.
When the game was marketed to us, even though you could play it on PC, there was so much to it that took us by surprise. For mobile gamers, the idea that such a title could even be played on a handheld device was unheard of, not just in terms of graphics, but in scope as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
If they changed a few things around and did away with the energy system, they could feasibly have released Genshin Impact as a standalone title like you would a Zelda, Mario, or Pokemon game. Heck, they could have even...
Yeah, sorry, I am going to be pausing this a lot because chat has a lot of very interesting points as well. I think the main reason why people felt Natlan as a letdown is because it was known to be the nation of war and living with dragons. If they had described it differently, it would have been less disappointing in my opinion. Yeah, you know what, to be honest, this is fucking Nouvelet's fault, dude. This is fucking Nouvelet's fault. I love that man, but Jesus Christ did he set my expectations for this goddamn region. We got to talk to him at the end of, what was it, Farina's quest or some shit? Or maybe the Archon quest, that open hole in the ground with the elevator, and he's like, yeah, by the way, Natlan, land of dragons. Land of what now? Land of dragons? Dragons? Like, yeah, dragons. And we get there and it's a little fucking saurian. It's cute, don't get me wrong, but it's a little fucking grasshopper dude that fucking Spider-Man's. And it's like, yeah, there's a couple of dragons, don't get me wrong. It ain't the land of dragons. It ain't the land of dragons. Like, there's not thousands of cool-ass dragons living there now. Like, they're all dead, or robots. So yeah, I guess people got a wrong impression from Nouvelet.
Even made it into an MMORPG with how much foundation the game had. From a gacha point of view, we were used to 2D sprites, superficial gameplay, still cutscenes. Some games didn't even have any voice acting. Not to mention you couldn't play these on consoles or PC. It would be no exaggeration to say that Genshin Impact didn't just try to break the mold, it trailblazed a new direction for an entire industry. Even to this day, I find myself being surprised at just how big this game is given the initial premise of it. And
to be honest, dude, thinking of it now and still thinking Genshin Impact is a mobile game and thinking just how much like surface area this game has to cover, the open world, all of the content, it is such an incredible feat. And I don't know if you guys know this. Ken sent me something the other day. Apparently, Genshin Impact is like the most expensive game to maintain. It takes something like $200 million a month to like update and maintain and everything, which is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I mean it when I say Hoyo deserves the success it once had. Where I draw the line...
200 mil per year? No, I think it was... Oh, was it 200 mil a year? Maybe. I think total, it's surpassed $1 billion now, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what Ken... showed me. Yeah, maybe 200 million a year. That might be it.
Is when Hoyo believes they're entitled to lasting success in perpetuity. Or in other words, I take issue with how complacent the company has become with Genshin Impact. As the leading authority in the gacha industry, Genshin was the gold standard for any developer who wanted to enter this space.
True.
Like, it's almost crazy how big of a paradigm shift Genshin caused when you take a look at gacha titles from before 2020 and compare them to the ones after. Even those that don't have any intention of competing against Hoyo, right? It's practically night and day. Everyone in some capacity was trying to reinvent the wheel, even Hoyo themselves. Their succeeding titles, Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero, used Genshin Impact as the benchmark for how to structure those games.
Yeah, they reinvented the wheel, alright. I don't know, though. I feel like they put HSL's wheels on backwards for a while, and ZZZ, to be fair, ZZZ seems to be doing pretty damn good.
Actually, you can't copy what someone is doing and expect to achieve the same result. You have to do more, and GOT just did. They didn't just see Genshin as a standard to meet, but the standard to beat. The problem with Genshin is that up until now, I feel like they went off the assumption that they couldn't be beat. And when they realized they're not as invulnerable as they once thought, the procrastinated scramble to recapture the dwindling interest of its player base is what ultimately resulted in the current state the game finds itself in. Genshin Impact, now more than ever, needs to change. It needs to evolve. For too long, it went through each and
here's the thing. I actually think... Oh, dude. Okay, let me... Oh, my God. This is actually a brilliant image to put on screen while we talk about this. Early Genshin was so freaking peak. These events, dude, the limited events, and don't get me wrong, I hate the fact that they're limited events, but this event was better than a lot of Archon Quest, dude. But here's the thing. I feel like with Natlan, the Archon Quest was less received well from a lot of people. I really enjoyed it. But here's the thing, dude. I feel like Genshin is gonna make meaningful changes, like Vaz is saying here, they need to. I feel like they are currently. And the way that I feel like they're doing that is with this Moon Sister stuff, right? They're teasing so much stuff so early now. Not only new characters with the roadmap and stuff, but also a new region they're teasing. They're teasing it with all this incredible lore in the web event, which hopefully should get updated next week. Maybe we'll see some more stuff in this coming live stream about that as well on Friday. I don't know. But I do feel like they're making the effort to improve. Maybe not at the level that a lot of people would like them to, in all fairness. I can definitely understand that. People want to see quicker, better improvements from the biggest game on the market that should be the the top dog, you know? But for me, a general consumer of the game, in terms of the game's quality right now, I think it's heading in a pretty damn good direction. I think post Natlan has me more hyped than Natlan did, which is kind of interesting. I'm more excited for Nordcry now than I was for the finale of the Natlan Ore Conquest, because I feel like the lore is more impactful from what we got from the web event so far. Which is an incredibly interesting time to be alive in the Genshin Impact scope, to be honest.
Version in a formulaic autopilot fashion. Eastliner
Really
made an excellent video essay on this back in spring of last year, which I highly recommend you check out, as it's still more than relevant today. Even though
I do also agree. I think Nordcry's aesthetic also hits better for me personally.
Oil single-handedly brought the gacha industry into the public consciousness. A byproduct of that is that their very presence invites challenge, not only from within, but from without. Widespread public attention leads to no shortage of scrutiny and attempts from other parties to try and take advantage of that dissatisfaction. But for...
Do you want to know a really weird thought that I've just had? You know, like when you're watching an anime, and you have, just as an example, you have different arcs. You have the training arc, you have the fucking school arc, whatever, you have the battle arc, you have the war, you have the beach arc. I feel like the phase that we are in right now with Genshin Impact is we're coming out of that vacation arc, the beach episode. I feel like Natlan was that, and it shouldn't have been for a lot of people. I feel like Natlan should have been the nation of war and stuff, but it felt too cute and too colorful and nice at the forefront that it feels like a beach episode, even though the underlying lore is really complex and dark and deep if you actually take the time to look into it and play the Ore Conquest. It really does feel like we're coming out of the arc and we're heading into the endgame. We're heading into the endgame now. Natlan is very anime. It's very my friends are my power. It's very everyone coming together for one greater good goal, which we don't typically, I would argue, get in previous nations. A little bit, yeah. It just feels different, and I don't really know how to explain it 100%. And I'm not mad at it, because again, I feel like we got to really care about the nation of Natlan, and not care as much for the characters as previous nations, for me personally and a lot of you guys. But yeah, I'm really hoping that with Nordcry, we come out of the power of friendship situation and we get into the power of kicking ass and taking butt. Wait, what's that saying? Taking names and kicking ass. Taking ass and kicking gum? Something about gum?
It's time to kick gum and chew ass. And I'm all
What is it? I don't know.
Challenge was a non-issue. I'm sure everyone can recall Tower of Fantasy's miserable attempt at being the so-called Genshin killer,
True.
which effectively gave Hoyo a stranglehold over the market for multiple years. They saw no issue with going about things of their own accord, and to be fair, for its time,
Yeah, that was sad. Honestly, dude, the whole Tower of Fantasy situation was kind of sad because apparently they didn't even... And I was shocked by this revelation. I was told that Tower of Fantasy never actually marketed themselves as the Genshin killer. That was all like community doing. I could have sworn I saw official posts from Tower of Fantasy saying that they were the Genshin killer, like as a selling point for the... I swear to God, I could remember it, but I'm remembering wrong apparently. I don't know.
Genshin was a pretty solid game. There were concerns regarding the lack of meaningful content once making it to endgame, but when you consider what the alternative was, being the greater gacha industry, Genshin was a power creep resistant, free-to-play friendly, multifaceted, open-world gacha game intended to appeal to every type of player you can think of. That was practically unheard of within the industry before, and even since. Also, I'm not saying they haven't been putting in any work whatsoever.
No,
with each passing
I really do think they've been putting in a lot of work. It's just not up to a lot of people's expectations.
version, huge expansions were made to the world of Teyvat, along with a plethora of new places to explore, handcrafted and detailed to make each area feel unique and memorable.
Yep.
Additionally, we saw new methods of exploration and new service mechanics and puzzles, along with a ton of new content for players interested in that front. So credit where it's due, from an exploration standpoint, they've been keeping it up to date very nicely. However, while gachas are conceptually designed to only be played sparsely throughout the week,
True.
Genshin was created to accommodate those who wanted to play for much longer and more seriously. With the game trying to appeal to as wide of an audience as possible, that also meant it needed to maintain appeal for as wide of an audience as possible, consequently leading to the start of its eventual decline in popularity. Expansions to the overworld were a welcome addition without question, but the reason it's not being acknowledged as much as it could be is due to the absence of meaningful systems put in place to substantiate it and give us extrinsic motivation to actually go for them. For all the beauty and vastness of the game's scenery, apart from...
Bro, we still haven't heard anything about the Genshin anime. It's been a long time. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I agree with that.
Exploring it to open chests, complete puzzles and whatnot, there literally is no other reason for you to revisit any of those spots, causing tons of areas throughout Teyvat to end up mostly being forgotten to time.
I'm surprised they actually used Dragonspine for this video to say when was the last time you visited Dragonspine and didn't use Enconomia, dude. Bro, I beg for a reason to revisit Enconomia that is meaningful than other than just going there to be there. Oh my goodness, dude. Oh, just peak sub-region, dude. It
Events
really
could
was.
potentially do so, but therein lies another problem. Genshin's events did little more than present ephemeral ways to kill time. Most if not all their flagship events rarely if ever add more to the game in a permanent lasting way, and while some of them may give us an engaging story bit for a character or two, that only appeals to one part of the widespread player base. Beyond the scope of their—
True. Again, this goes back to me saying, I know I'm pausing a lot, by the way. I'm turning a 16-minute video into probably a 1 hour long video here, but I really do want to give my thoughts on this. I think it's important. I think Genshin events not adding permanent stuff to the game all the time isn't really a bad thing. Limited events are allowed to be limited. Like, you can have limited stuff. I wouldn't want... I don't think it'd be healthy for the game for them to add, like, every limited event as permanent content, you know? Like, nobody wants to fucking do that firework shit where you just press T 5 times to get stuff. You know, nobody wants that, but some people might. Story events should be permanent, and events that give really good, like, weapons and stuff and character-specific weapons, I think should be permanent and stuff like that, and just cool events in general. But yeah, but the lore, yeah, lore should be good. Bring back the Hell Delivery event. I low-key really, I high-key really want to do that event. I really do. So yeah, bring that one back for me, please. But yeah, what was the other thing you said
if
here?
ever add more to the game in a permanent lasting way, and while some of them may give us an engaging story bit for a character or two, that only appeals to one part of the widespread player base. Beyond the scope of—
Yeah, like I was saying, this goes back to me looking at things from multiple perspectives and not just my own, which I'm trying to get better at. I get that. For me, the best events in the game are the ones that give us really cool character lore, right? It's the 2.8 Summer Vacation, it's the Albedo event, it's all of the Summer Vacations because they give a lot of in-depth character lore and story lore. But not everybody cares about that. Some people just want really cool combat events. Some people want the music event, me included. Some people want voiced events. Some people want unvoiced. Some people just want to spam click. Some people want to fish. Psychopaths, but still. There's something for everybody, but sometimes it's not substantial enough that people feel valued by it, I guess.
There being more to explore, the day-to-day experience of Genshin has not changed at all in the 4.5 years it's been out, because anything they do implement is either more of the same that we've been doing, or something new, but only for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Their constant negligence towards expanding on all aspects of the game was called out on several times in the past, but hardly any action was taken towards it since that would obviously require more resources, manpower, and wherewithal, and Toyo felt no sense of urgency in doing so when there was nothing that could pose a threat to their bottom line.
True.
Even so, the lack of care for evolving and expanding on Genshin Impact has only grown more and more pronounced. Players
Is it weird to think...
took note.
Is it weird to think that other Hoyo games could be competition for Hoyo? Especially since it's like different dev teams, I'm pretty certain, for like HSR, HSR, ZZZ, and Genshin. I don't know. Do you think they compete with each other? But at the end of the day, it's like Hoyo's still getting the money no matter which one succeeds, right? So is it a case of like whichever one's succeeding the most will get the most love put into it? At this point, I really don't know because it doesn't feel like that now. I think it used to when HSR was still pretty new and for Penacony and stuff, right? But right now, I don't know. And there's plenty of competition now. I gotta keep it about, dude. There's more competition now than ever. We got Wuwa, we got the other Hoyo games, we got Ananta coming out, and other absolute banger-looking games that are on the way. There is going to be a lot of competition to keep up with here.
Notice of all the things the game either did not implement or implemented poorly and kept them in mind, causing them to be hyper-conscious of it when competing titles eventually came out. Ironically, the first one to pose a threat to Genshin Impact's optics was its own sister title, Honkai Star Rail, published by the same parent company. Up until midway through version 3, Hoyo expressed little interest in changing their content formula, as evident by version 3's event cycle releasing in the same exact format as version 2, which released in the same exact format as version 1. The only difference in gameplay we had was Dendro, which in fairness did serve to increase their capabilities.
Dendro was very fun. I gotta keep it about, dude. When it released, Dendro was very fun. I do think it trivialized a shitload of endgame content that we had, even though for me, the endgame content wasn't fantastic to begin with.
But if you recall, around this time is when players started to get bothered by the total lack of significance in the latter half of Genshin's versions. Nothing but filler content after filler that did very little to expand on the game in a lasting way. Putting it simply, players were starting to get bored. fed up with the status quo with little interest expressed by the developers to change it. The only expansion that took place was to overworld exploration, but again, exploring every nook and cranny of the map is an area of interest that only a portion of the player base cares to look into.
That is true. I used to care a lot about exploring every nook and cranny of the map, especially when I was 100% in regions, but I lost quite a bit of interest in that. I should get back to it because it is really fun to do, especially with the community and with you guys. It is a
2023
lot
and
of fun.
2024 saw the release of multiple titles carrying production value and quality on par with Genshin Impact. Furthermore, after 3 years of dominance, smaller mobile titles began to push for better gameplay quality as well. What initially set Genshin apart as the mind of innovation has now become par for the course. Essentially, the competition caught up to Genshin, and players are quick to take notice. From day one of Honkai Star Rail being released, the first thing everyone did, myself included, was take notice at how familiar the systems were to its predecessor, which only made the differences more conspicuous. For instance, the existence of better quality of life adjustments, including gestures of goodwill like free stuff and rewards and whatnot. Then Honkai Star Rail sought to give actual meaningful care for its endgame, presenting more.
But I am still under the impression, and I still stand by this, that the reason HSR always gave pulls was because you have more of a need for the characters that you have to spend on than you do in Genshin. They might be giving more pulls, but there's also just more characters that you need to pull, right? And maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's just me putting blinders onto the situation, but I don't know. I really do feel like you need the characters more in Star Rail than you do in Genshin.
Multiple different modes that allow for a much more dynamically challenging metagame. Granted, that was the only thing they could really work on given the lack of exploration in the game. Of course, I'd be remiss to not mention the infamous Genshin Can Never meme that spawned in early 2024 after realizing just how much more attentive to detail and player feedback Star Rail's dev team was compared to Genshin. Mind you, Star Rail's not blameless either, and player goodwill has been diminishing quite rapidly towards that game too, especially in light of the power creep issue and the recent design choice they made towards a certain character, but that's for another video. The point is,
the global passive jump scare PTSD.
By 2024, the growing frustration towards Genshin for not wanting to do anything to innovate on its existing gameplay experience reached an actionable point. Actionable in the sense that players have actively begun to quit the game now that there was an alternative option to pursue. You could say Hoyo doesn't really mind on account of HSR also being run by them, but it's more than that now. Wuthering Waves came out last year, marking the first legitimate external competitor to Genshin Impact. Full disclosure, I'm not a Hoyo shill nor am I a Kuro shill. Many people were excited for the release of WUA, even some Genshin fans, because maybe, just maybe, Hoyo would wake up to the fact that they're not the only fish in the sea anymore. They would have to shape up.
Even from the get-go, WUA did some things better than Genshin that a lot of people, including myself, loved. The combat being the main thing. In fact, probably the only thing. But if we're keeping it real, the combat in WUA was just next level. It was what everybody was hoping for in terms of Endgame, and they keep delivering on it. Sure, the latest anniversary drama is, you know, it's something. There's always going to be drama. There's always going to be things to be disappointed about and be happy about. I still think WUA's doing a phenomenal job in the industry right now.
Up and work
I think it's
on
doing
their
really
game.
good.
To some extent they did, although the implementation was questionable to say the least. Shortly after WUA,
Yeah, if there's one thing that will confuse me until the end of time, it is why 4 years later, Genshin Impact still do not have the simple artifact loadout after creating something that is quick loadout and custom loadout that is not actually artifact loadout. We've seen it done so many times, and even in other gacha games now and in other games. I don't know how they don't just do it.
came the Imaginarium Theater, taking inspiration from Star Rail's simulated universe and being marketed to us as the new endgame content.
Also, yeah, dude, for the freaking Traveler, you don't want to have to go and reselect artifacts every time you change an element. Give Hydro Traveler, Pyro Traveler, you know, like, I don't think it's that crazy. Flying Sheep, thank you for the 4 months. I appreciate it. We got Flying Sheeps before artifact loadouts, that's crazy.
Finally receiving lasting endgame content after nearly 4 years came to a screeching halt at the frankly awful execution of the concept. Even though improvements have been made in subsequent cycles, the message was loud and clear. Much of the community suspected they scrambled to quickly release something out of concern for Genshin losing a significant number of players to emerging titles, not only from their own portfolio like HSR and CCZ, but now even WUA, among other games. This might be a
For Imaginarium Theater, I don't think it was a quick scramble to get something out there to try and compete. I think it was probably in development for a very long time. I just think, and this is me speaking very, very bluntly here, I just don't think Hoyo fully understand what the end game players are truly after in the game. I don't think there's or maybe they're just not willing to put in the game what people would like. And that's fine. It is what it is. I've come to accept that at this point, and I just play the game for the reasons why I enjoy the game. I play for the story. I ignore the end game. I just do it if I have time. I just don't care. I think a lot of people that want more endgame content don't just want to fight against a timer. I think they want no timer. I think they want to be able to build fun, stupid units and just have fun with it and take an hour instead of 5 minutes if they want to, and have mechanics. I think mechanics are a big thing, not just overworld enemies with massive HP pools. The latest event is maybe teasing something that could be going in that direction again, with having like 9,999 HP pools. I personally would like, if I had to choose types of endgame to have in this game, it would be multiplayer endgame, where you have to do like mini raids with 4 people, you and 3 other people. Say, for example, there's a mechanic where around the boss there's 3 different circles that glow on the ground, and that means 3 of that 4-person co-op team have to stand in the circles, and that's what brings the boss down in the middle, and you cage it, and then the other person can do the damage. Or say, for example, you need like a specifically 2 DPS, 1 shielder, and a healer or something, right? That can shield and heal everybody. And one of the mechanics is you have 5 seconds to generate a shield for you, otherwise you wipe. Something like that. Something difficult. And you don't have to put rewards behind it, because I don't think a lot of the people that want that type of endgame want in it for the rewards. Local legends, tell me one that does that. Tell me a local legend that does that kind of thing. You know? I think you just want to play D&D. No, I want to play Genshin, but I also would like more things in the game to do. Bran, it's far harder to do than you think. I know it's very difficult to do. This is Hoyoverse. Let's not bullshit each other here, guys. Let's keep it fucking real. I can think about this from multiple POVs. This is a game that makes billions upon billions of fucking dollars. Hard to do is not an excuse for not being done. It is not. If they just don't want to do it, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm not against that. Like I say, I'm just playing for the story at this point. But just because something is hard to do doesn't mean that it wouldn't be done or couldn't be done. Come on now. Come the fuck on.
But Imaginarium felt more like a PR stunt than a well-mapped out, well-tested, well-conceptualized, and well-implemented game mode.
I disagree with that.
Don't even do it because of how
I think I do it. I think a lot of people actually really like Imaginary Theater. I don't think it's necessarily a bad endgame mode. I think it's interesting that you have to have the characters like a certain friendship level and leveled up to a certain level and stuff. I think that's pretty interesting.
It is. Suffice to say, patience has begun to run out for the game.
It's just not the best.
Following yet another series of disappointing filler patches, version 4 player interest in the game was at an all-time low. Sales were down, viewing interest was down, and people were busy.
Wait, what was this? Would you agree that because of the damage Mawika can reach, they're increasing HP, Mawika messed up Genshin a bit? I think there's characters in the game that could already deal significant amounts of damage to things, and Mawika's just another one. She's just another thrower on the pile with all the other characters, dude. There's plenty.
Busy checking out all the new stuff going on during the summer. As far as gameplay quality and such goes, the gacha industry caught up to Genshin, except other titles expressed more interest and care to do more than just the bare minimum. All the while, Genshin was stagnating, expanding more on the game, yes, but doing so in haphazard or temporary ways that did very little, if anything, to improve on the game's overall experience for all types of players. Again, exploration fans were eating well. Everyone else, not so much, but remaining fans of the game were optimistic that Natlan would make a big difference. Oh, it certainly made a difference, but not in the way it should have. To save us both some time, let's assume you're well acquainted with all the events that transpired throughout version 5 thus far, so we can get to the point. Natlan was the final testing ground for Genshin Impact to restore player goodwill and bring interest back into the game.
Curious about this.
Beyond just the Archon quest. But instead of delivering on that front, they ended up doing the complete opposite by effectively butchering every major possible aspect of the game, from exploration to combat to story to characters. What's even more frustrating is that
Really? Is that a grand consensus?
delivering on that front, they ended up doing the complete opposite by effectively butchering every major possible aspect of the game, from exploration to combat to story to characters.
That feels very Doomer. I would say for characters, yes, partially out of their control. I really do think the lack of voice acting really significantly affected the way people perceive characters and the connection to those characters. I really do, and it's such a shame, dude. It's such a shame. It's really difficult for me to separate that from just not feeling an attachment to the characters as well, because maybe it affected it more than even I like to admit. to be honest. I think the story was great, though. I think anybody that says the Natlan story was, like, not... Like, overall, I understand not liking certain points and plot points about it, but, dude, the Natlan story was so lore-heavy and lore-important, I can't agree with the fact that they butchered it. That's insane to me. And I think the world quest was some of the best world quests we've had in years. I really, really do. I think since Sumeru, at the very least, it's up there with Golden Slumber, if not even better. I think the world quests are phenomenal. What else did he say?
Butchering every major possible aspect of the game, from exploration to...
Exploration. I think the layout of the areas is absolutely beautiful. I think the Saurian exploration is actually really, really freaking cool. And I think locking exploration abilities behind the characters as much as they did is probably a pretty big no-no going forward, I would hope. But the exploration is about the same as it's been in previous regions. What did they do for Fontaine? They did the swimming. A lot of people just really thought the swimming was pretty fucking boring after the first week. Let's keep it a buck. And a lot of people thought the Sumeru stuff, it was literally just the grapple points, right? Like, that's, I mean, it is what it, you need that. You need that to be able to explore. I think the exploration in Natlan was pretty damn good, to be honest, if we're being very honest with each other. I think the exploration was good. I think the fact that you could explore without getting the characters and just using the Saurians is already good, but that's just me.
The combat to story to characters.
Combat, yeah. I mean, combat's just the same as it's always been. I don't think there's been any revelations in Genshin's combat in the past year.
What's even more frustrating is that the 5.0 special program gave us so much hope. All the new interesting things they implemented, and the amazing premise of Natlan's different tribes, the setup of the Archon quest being a climactic battle, and of course let's not forget the most important part, everyone's favorite daddy Harbinger, the enigmatic Harbinger Capitano finally gracing us with his presence.
But let's keep it real, dude. Capitano was sick in the Archon quest. The quest was, at the end of the day, it was a battle against the Abyss where we saw real loss for the first time, and we did defeat a grand enemy in the end. I think people probably expected... They had bigger expectations. I was very happy with the Archon quest, personally, because I went into it with pretty standard expectations. Was it the best Archon quest in the game? No. I still think Fontaine was better. I think it's on par with Sumeru's Archon quest. I think the lore was the best lore we've had. Lore specifically. I think the lore was the best lore we've had in an Archon quest yet.
There was so much to be excited for. Characters were ruined, not just in visual design disparity, but also gameplay, world-building cohesion.
This might be a crazy thing to say, guys.
Characters were ruined, not just in visual design.
This might be an absolutely crazy thing to say. Chaska's design has really grown on me. I hated it at first, dude. I fucking hated it. I think she looks better without the hat. I still think the colors are clashing quite a bit. I think she looks better in the muted red, like in this, than in-game. 100%. But, I don't hate it as much as I used to. I still hate the bare leg compared to the fully covered leg. It's just contrasting. But, yeah, I don't hate it as much as I used to.
Disparity, but also gameplay. World-building cohesion.
Bawika's bike is absolutely crazy to me still. I definitely feel like they should have gone a bit more of a draconic route. Like, not a bike. I think it's cool. But I do think it's a little bit too modern in design aesthetic. I think it should maybe look a little bit different. Like, if she was riding a mechanical dragon, bro, that shit looks so sick. That shit looks so sick.
Got completely thrown out the window with all the uncharacteristic things they shoehorned into it. Exploration was expanded upon, but depending on how you look at it, even that got compromised because if you don't pull for Natlan units, like Shilonen, Chaska, and Mavuika, trying to navigate Natlan's terrain becomes a major hassle.
I disagree. I think the Saurians do a perfectly fine job of substituting the characters, and I think if you're using Mavuika for actual exploration when you own the other characters, you're doing yourself a disservice, because I'm not gonna cap, dude, her fucking mechanics are dog shit. Her flight is fucking horrendous. Her climbing on the bike is awful. The only thing she's good at is going over the water. That's it. The rest of and over the ground, but you can do that with other characters and just the stuff. Her flight is terrible. Her climbing is terrible. It just bugs out all the goddamn time.
Combat-wise, the game has begun to inflate in power for no discernible reason, with characters becoming stronger purely for the sake of boosting sales, as the content to this day has not really evolved all that much.
No.
It just feels like they're throwing random stuff at the game without proper planning.
I love that Moon Knight, dude.
And foresight. Any new features they add, or the attempts to appeal to the crowd come off as contrived and hollow because it's demonstrably clear Hoyo isn't doing this for the sake of improving and building on a game that has brought them so much, but merely just to draw appeal or to...
It just comes off as unaware, I think, of what the community actually wants.
We saw more from the player base that still
From the
remains.
combat.
The game has no sense of direction anymore, and people
I disagree with that.
are growing exhausted of it. Statistically, Genshin Impact might
Listen,
Lillian260T vibe, Bran on twerk, Genshin just sadly little dragging out its story lately. Not in the best way too. Hopefully Nord Cry will turn game direction to the best.
I hope so too. I think it will. Thank you for the 14 months, Lillian. I appreciate it. I think
no sense of direction anymore.
I don't think Genshin has no sense of direction. I personally think the direction that they're going is they're really, really focusing on lore and story. And that makes me really happy. That makes me really fucking happy, dude. I really like the lore of the story of this game. It's the reason I play it, but I can definitely understand the people that play it for the combat. And there's a lot of people that play this game for the combat because there's not many other games that do combat in this way, dude. It's a very intricate, multifaceted system of combat, dude. You get all these different characters, all these different archetypes of characters, all these different elements, all these reactions. It's such a complex, incredible system with not really too much to actually utilize it on, you know? It's sad. It's disappointing for a lot of people, but I do think they're doing fantastic things with the story and lore. I do.
And people are growing exhausted of it. Statistically, Genshin Impact might still be the biggest gacha game to date, but I can't help but feel like Koyo just gave up on it.
That's a crazy statement to me. Personally, that sounds like such a... I feel like the only reason people would think that after looking at the numbers and seeing what they've done is literally just to cause reactions. Just to cause reactions, because clearly they fucking haven't. Yes, there's a lot of improvements to be made. There is, even 4 years down the line. There is a lot of improvements to be made. The game is still succeeding. The game is still killing it on multiple fronts. But it's just not killing it on all fronts. It's not. It's definitely receding in certain areas and pushing really far forward in other areas, in my opinion.
This gacha game to date, but I can't help but feel like Koyo just gave up on it. It's the same formulaic autopilot approach they've been doing for the past 4 years. Just
in terms of patch updates, yes, but why change something when it isn't broken on one hand? Just add to it. I don't think changing it up is a good idea. Like, he made the example before of like putting the patch cycles in the same order, right? And keeping things stale, like 0.0 to 0.3 being All Conquest, and 0.4 being like 0.3 being Lantern Right, and then an event, and then an event, and then a different event, and then stuff like that. I think that's fine to keep the same. Let people know what to expect. Like, I know now this next patch is likely going to be something semi-filler, but the patch after is probably going to be a Dainsleeve patch, right? I like knowing that. And then I can maybe be super impressed and excited that maybe we'll get something different next patch. I think that's a good thing. And then I know that 0.8, we're probably going to get something related to Nord Cry or a summer event. Probably going to get that. Yeah, I think it's fine to keep some things the same and not change everything all the time. Next patch is a weekly boss. No, and that's exactly what I'm saying. See, you know that from previous patch cycles. Maybe you'll be disappointed, maybe you'll be happy. 5.6 is not filler. By filler, I mean nothing progressing the main story, guys. I think in the next patch we are going to get... I think we're going to get Mayor Javari, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get Venti's story quest. But also now I'm thinking we're probably not going to, because Venti's currently rerunning right now. And I feel like they would rerun him on a second story quest. So we're probably not going to get Venti's second story quest. If we don't, possibly Mayor Javari and a way to get to Nord Cry from there, or from Natlan and area. Or maybe still Mondstadt stuff if we're not going to get Venti's second story quest specifically. The elusive Dorman port, right? Maybe the elusive Dorman port. Might be something Fontaine related with the Scoffia. Oh, fuck, true. Fontaine is kind of peak though, so we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I disagree with that take personally.
It's the same formulaic autopilot approach they've been doing for the past 4 years, just with a new coat of paint over it every year. Only now it's been polluted by nonsensical character design, forced gimmicks, and an even more stagnant day-to-day gameplay experience.
Agreed.
I don't think it's a coincidence that so many big-time gacha games got released in 2024 and are about to release in this year and next year.
True.
UA and ZZZ aside, there's Ash Echoes, Girls Frontline Exilium, Infinity Nikki,
Girls Frontline Exilium is absolutely goated, by the way. It's actually a really fun game.
Azure Familiar, Project Mugen, Neverness Tavernus, Arknight's Anvil to name a few. Even if none of these games get anywhere close to Genshin in size, they still fracture a number of Genshin's players, who may never come back to the game. The controversial reception towards version 5, coupled with the anticipated release of multiple new games, will continue to chip away at public opinion towards Genshin, and if they don't do something soon, I wouldn't be surprised if version 6, the long anticipated advent of Snezhnaya, doesn't even pique player interest for
Well, this is a weird one. Because I'll keep it a butt, dude. I think Shania would peak player interest, and I think it would be the most active time of the game, personally. Maybe I'm mistaken by that, but a lot of people have been waiting for this, and everybody knows that's where the harbingers are. I don't know if Shania is going to be 6.0 anymore. The way that things are right now, I don't think there's enough time to do all of the Nod Cry stuff that they've shown before 6.0. So I think 6.0 might just be Nod Cry, and we'll get Shania later down the line in, like, halfway through the 6.x cycle or 7.0. Deadass.
For more than like a month. It might be exciting for a patch or two, but with the game not having evolved in a substantial way for almost 5 years.
I do also think one thing I really want to see them do when Nod Cry comes out, if Nod Cry is 6.0, one thing that would pique player interest, I think, would be to do what HSR are doing. I think all conquest every patch. I think it just makes sense. If you're adding, what was it, 12 factions, do an all conquest every patch. Do a quest that goes through all those factions. Give them all story. Give them all lore. Let us learn about everything, dude. Just do it. I think they could, and I think they should. I don't see why they wouldn't do that at this point.
What's the point? Gotta say, it's frustrating to see.
You're making it seem like Nod Cry would be the entire 6.x when it totally isn't. Almost as if I just said... I think Nod Cry is going to be 6.x, and I think Snezhnaya will either happen halfway through the 6.x cycle or 7.0. So no, I'm not making it out like it's going to be the entirety of 6.x. I'm making it out like it's probably going to be half of it or something. It's probably going to be a good amount. There's far too much to do in one patch cycle, dude. If you look, all 7.0, why would Nod Cry be 7.0? We're going there next. That is where we're going next. They literally said it in the live stream that they said within the next 6 months, Nod Cry will be a thing. I think it could be either.
See a substantial way for almost 5 years. What's the point?
But I don't think it's that far of a reach to think that Nod Cry could be the entirety of 6.x either, to be honest. With all of the updates from the Moon shit that we got, saying that there's all these factions congregating in Nod Cry, and all of the information that we've had so far, I really don't think it's that big of a stretch.
It's frustrating to see this happen. When a company becomes so complacent, they begin to take their success.
A lot of players already dislike HSR for long quests, so it's unlikely. An all conquest every patch doesn't mean an 8-hour-long all conquest every patch.
For granted and let a game fester until it eventually rots. Natlan and by extension version 5 had so much potential to be the saving grace that puts Genshin back on top for players, but it's just more of the same vapid and superficial crap. Whether you're someone who enjoys Natlan's character design and the story, or someone who hates it, I think we can all agree that Genshin needs to change in some way, shape, or form. Every way, shape, or form. It needs something new and refreshing to set the change in some way, shape, or form. Every way, shape, or form.
I think it does need to change in some way, shape, or form. Not every way, shape, or form. It doesn't need to change everything. But it definitely could benefit from changing a lot of things.
It needs something new and refreshing to set the game in a different direction than where it's going now. We need actual endgame content that challenges us in a way that's rewarding and fair.
I do agree with that. Endgame content is the biggest issue right now, in my opinion.
We need meaningful story developments and plot progression that keeps us interested in the game long after the end of each version's Archon quest. We need and in-game content that challenges us in a way that's rewarding and fair. We need meaningful story developments and plot progression that keeps us interested in the game long after the end of each version's Archon quest.
I feel like we have that now. Maybe I'm crazy, dude. Maybe I'm absolutely crazy. I feel like we have that now. I feel like we were interested in the Natlan Archon quest. That finished, and then straight after the Natlan Archon quest, we got sick world quests about dragons, and we got a real ending to fucking tape out, technically. And then we get the Moon stuff, and then we're getting Nod Cry teasers. Like, everybody's interested now.
We need more quality of life updates, like being able to replay old events out the same way other games do. We need updates to systems like the standard banner. We need flagship replay old events out the same way other games do. We need updates to systems like the standard banner. We need flagship.
Oh, I would have liked him to explain how he would want the standard banner upgrading, because I do think it needs upgrading.
To replay old events out the same way other games do. We need updates to systems.
Very vague, very vague. But I think the standard banner could do with either more characters being added, also separating. I think the standard character banner and standard weapon banner should be different. I think there's far too much ambiguity with what you're going to get. I still haven't got a War's Gravestone from the standard banner in 4 years. I don't know, man. I think, yeah, like we were, I think the standard characters should be on one banner and the standard weapons should be on another, and they should cost the same currency, and you can just choose which one you want to pull for.
Systems like the standard banner. We need flagship events that aren't just a bunch of minigames. The game has to evolve. It's been doing the same shit for far too long. Genshin Impact has so much potential to be one of the best games of all time, but Hoyo refuses to actualize that potential. I just wish they cared. Genshin doesn't have to be the biggest.
Best games of all time might be a bit of a stretch. I don't know, man. Maybe. Maybe for a lot of people. Hey chat, one in the chat if you were totally unaware that Lisa, the playable character, is canonically dying.
She gave up half of her lifespan for power beyond comprehension.
Crazy, and she's a fucking standard 4-star. How Thanks for the 100 bits, Suku.
Gacha game. Ever since Pokemon TCG came out, there's no way they can compete against friggin' Nintendo. But I wish the devs cared. Not boilerplate we hear you platitudes, actually care. It's become abundantly clear they just don't care anymore. The game won't die, but it's just sad to see what it could have been.
Yeah, this title's interesting. I feel like this is the type of kind of bad clickbait I was talking about, because I don't think it is losing popularity.
What do you guys think about this? Do you feel like the game still has a chance, or has Genshin run out of second chances?
Of course it still has a chance, dude. Games are doing far fucking worse than this.
Welcome to share in the comments down below. I do apologize
end of service next month.
For the depressing tone throughout the video. I just felt like it needed to be said.
End of
That's
service.
it for today though, so if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd like to like and subscribe.
Less than 100 million in a month, EOS.
Don't forget to follow me on Twitter @VarsFarum. Join my
I really did expect some kind of charts to show that Genshin's losing popularity. Hold on.
server, and be sure to check out my discussion on Genshin Impact's modern character design if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Based. Alright, thank you, Vars. Let's get that link in the chat. Let's head over to Google Trends very, very quickly. This is not a very good... Just to be completely blunt here, dude, this is not a very good indicator of if something's fucking dying or not, but it's the closest thing I can think of. We'll go worldwide. We'll go past 5 years. Categories, we'll do games. Let's first of all just go web search, because I guess not too many people are actually... I guess web searching Genshin Impact, right? So interest over time. Obviously, Genshin peaked back at release October 2020. We got a little bit of a spike here, and yeah, it is naturally going down over time. Right now, it's at a pretty damn low point, but just for example, January, it was back at 12, which was that Natlan release? That was Lantern, right? Was this Natlan release then? 14. Yeah, so this was Fontaine release, so it was a bit more popular. Not a crazy amount, but a bit more, and I fully expected that. Sumeru release was probably around here, right? Yeah, because I think this is probably when Dendro was announced. It's like a 28. Yeah, this looks pretty normal. Everything's going to lose popularity over time. I fully expected this. This is about what I thought. But if you compare this with something like Overwatch, Overwatch is actually a very, very good one. Yeah, Genshin ain't dead. Genshin's pretty fine, guys. I think it's doing all right. Let's test something else. Elden Ring. It's not live service, so it's a little bit different, but yeah. Elden Ring is fucking phenomenal to be competing like this with Genshin, by the way. Holy shit. Absolutely fucking peak. Try Valorant. Valorant's a very good one. Yeah, Genshin's just fine. World of Warcraft recently had a massive popularity spike. Yeah, dude. I mean, World of Warcraft's fucking huge. Goddamn. WoW's always been huge. It's one of the biggest games in the world. Pick Genshin Impact video game, not term. Brother, I thought I did. Holy shit. Hold on. We might have fucked up, guys. Okay. Never mind. Sorry, I fucked up. Let's go back to this, because this looks even better than what we just saw. Jesus Christ. What the fuck, dude? This site confuses me. Yeah, no. I think what I said anyway is going to be exactly the same. Even with Elden Ring, which was competing at a pretty close level. Yeah, dude. Even World of Warcraft, one of the biggest games in the entire world, online game. Yeah, Genshin's perfectly fine, guys.